What's up, guys? The Roval was absolutely crazy once again. 2 years in a row. Chase Elliott wins. Yes, he gets his third win of 2019, his sixth career win. It is so crazy. What a comeback from Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott ran straight into Heartburn Turn. He ran straight into Turn 1. Luckily, that wall is soft and he came back, ran through the whole field, and came back to win the race. That is absolutely crazy. And this is the last race of the first round of the playoffs, the last race of the round of 16. So that means 4 guys got eliminated. Yes, it's a cutoff race. Those 4 guys are Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, Eric Almirola, and Eric Jones. Those guys are really not who lots of people would have expected to be eliminated in the first round coming into the playoffs, and we'll go through all of these results. Chase Elliott just won the second stage, led the most laps, 35 laps. He was doing great. On the restart, just ran straight into the wall and was able to come back and win the race. That's amazing. Second is Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman is making enemies lately. Last week with Austin Dillon, this week with Bubba Wallace. What is going on, Alex Bowman? But I understand his disagreement with Bubba Wallace this week. Bubba Wallace was sticking the middle finger up to him the whole time. Bubba Wallace was holding Bowman up. There's no doubt about it. Bowman dumped him. And then Alex Bowman was really sick this week. He's not feeling well. And Bubba comes up after the race while Bowman's sitting on the ground, splashes water in his face. That's not cool at all by Bubba Wallace. But Alex Bowman crashed, 3 times in this race, spun out on the first lap in the backstretch chicane. He comes back, finishes second, and advances into the round of 12 in the playoffs. And the next 3 races in the next round of the playoffs, Alex Bowman finished second there in all of those races this year. So we'll have to see if Alex Bowman can fight his way to make it to the round of 8. Kevin Harvick gets third. Kevin Harvick had a pretty solid day going today. That's really good for him. Clint Boyer advances in the playoffs after coming into this race below the cut line. He advances. Really solid top 5 finish in 4th place. Brad Keselowski gets 5th. Brad Keselowski had a good day coming. He actually was considered one of the favorites for this race coming into the race, but it's good to see Brad Keselowski get a top 5. William Byron, the pole sitter, yes, his 5th pole of the year. He's the new Rocket Man. Gets 6th, the top 10. He advances in the playoffs. Really good by William Byron. I'm happy to see him make it to the round of 12. Martin Truex Jr. gets 7th. Martin Truex Jr. was up to 2nd for a while in the race, but ultimately drops back to get a top 10 and 7th. He did not sweep the first round of the playoffs. He didn't get 3 in a row. He got 2 in a row, but Chase Elliott was the one, the spoiler in that, and I'm super glad it was Chase Elliott. Ryan Blaney gets 8th. Ryan Blaney gets a top 10. Ryan Blaney advances. Something in his car broke during the race, and they had to come down pit road. They were actually out of the round of 12 for a while there, but they battled back up to get up to 8th place and advance in the playoffs. That's really good for Ryan Blaney and his team, Penske team. Jimmy Johnson didn't even make the playoffs this year, was up to 2nd for a while, started 2nd with all the people going to the back since Bowman crashed in the last seconds of practice. Otherwise, he would have started 2nd, and his day probably would have been a lot easier. Probably would have gotten a lot more stage points. But Jimmy Johnson gets 9th. Good day. He was running 2nd, top 10 Jimmy Johnson. Joey Logano gets 10th. Joey Logano has been bad lately. I mean, the top 10 here is fine, but not that Joey Logano we're used to seeing, especially considering he's last year's champion. Matt DiBenedetto gets 11th, 2 top 15s in a row. Great to see Matt DiBenedetto doing good and continue to build that Levine family racing team before he leaves it at the end of the season for Christopher Bell. Michael McDowell gets 12th. How tough is this guy? I mean, on Friday, he went to the infield care center. He was having abdominal pain. Then it got so bad that he had to be escorted to a hospital. Turns out he had kidney stones. He passed those kidney stones and came to qualify that car the same day and is here to race the car today and finishes 12th. Michael McDowell is a tough dude. I mean, I'm impressed by Michael McDowell, especially with that 12th place finish in that really bad car. He's a good road racer, of course. Great job by Michael McDowell. Kyle Larson gets 13th. Kyle Larson advances in the playoffs. He won the first stage because of kind of junk caution came out. NASCAR is way inconsistent with their cautions today. He won the first stage, kind of stole that from William Byron. Byron was on the pole, dominated the first stage. Larson won it, though, and Larson advances. Larson did a good job all day. He had a really fast car, but unfortunately, he had a pit road penalty because one of his pit crew members was doing service outside the box. Eric Almirola does not advance. Really bad for Eric Almirola. He gets 14th. Eric Almirola at the end was kind of the deciding factor of whether Bowman or Newman would make the playoffs. Almirola had to pass him. Newman missed the backstretch chicane. Almirola passed him. Almirola didn't have enough to make up that denominator to get into the playoffs. Bowman was able to. Ty Dillon gets 15th. That's a really good, solid top 15. Paul Menard gets 16th. He was in the top 10 for a while. Good day by Paul Menard. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets 17th. It was actually pretty fast today. Chris Buescher was in the top 10 for a while, at the beginning especially. He got spun during the race, though. He gets 18th. Solid top 20. He's going to Roush next year. His replacement, he is replacing the guy who finished right ahead of him. Denny Hamlin gets 19th. He spun. That kind of caused a crash with Paul Menard and Newman and Preece. Newman his whole car kind of got lifted up onto Menard a little bit. But yeah, something was wrong with Hamlin today. He gets a top 20. Kurt Busch 20th, does not advance in the playoffs. Super unfair. I mean, he was a top 8 car all year. Won a race at Kentucky. Really unfortunate just because this whole round was just terrible for him. So really unfortunate for Kurt Busch. Ryan Preece gets 21st. He was in top 10 for the beginning, just like his teammate Chris Buescher up there. But he got in a wreck as well. Ross Chastain kind of stalled the car on the apron of NASCAR turn 4, turn 3. But he gets 22nd. That's good. I mean, honestly, that's good for that team, Premium Motorsports. He can wheel that car. Austin Dillon gets 23rd. Jack Daniels back on the car this week. That's pretty cool. Throwback kind of looking. Bubba Wallace gets 24th. Look, Bubba Wallace needs to stop flicking people off. I mean, all it is making people mad. It made Suarez mad at Indianapolis. It made Bowman mad enough here to dump Bubba. Bubba hit the outside wall right after the backstretch chicane on the door side of the car. Bubba Wallace. Come on, man. I like Bubba. Okay, I do, but he can't keep doing this. And I understand Alex Bowman for doing that. He has to make the playoffs. Bubba's not even in it. He needs to get out of Bowman's way, and then for Bubba to come up and splash that water on Bowman's face when he's physically ill before the race even started. Now he's completely exhausted from the hot weather in the car. That was not right by Bubba Wallace at all. Hard for me to root for Bubba, but Bubba's still a good person, I feel like. Matt Tiff gets 25th. Parker Kligerman, he crashed in practice, gets 26th. He had heartburn turn. Corey LaJoie gets 27th. Corey LaJoie slid in the grass. Didn't cause a caution for that, but they called the caution for a lot of other random things. Landon Castle gets 28th. J.J. Ely gets 29th. Timmy Hill gets 30th. Joni Nemechek gets 31st. Ryan Newman gets 32nd. Ryan Newman does not make the playoffs, does not advance to the round of 12. His car was completely destroyed. So was Eric Almirola's. Those two were beating and banging to get to advance in the playoffs. Unfortunately, Newman does not. He was about to make it. He was ahead of Bowman. Basically had to win unless Almirola passed Newman. Newman messed up the backstretch chicane, completely missed it. He had to have a penalty, but he wasn't able to do that. That made a crash with Suarez. We'll get to that later. But Newman unfortunately does not make it. But he didn't have a good car all day long, kind of bad with that, but at the end there, he was like +3, and he was going to make it, but nope, he doesn't, and he stalled the car on pit road himself. That's really unfortunate for that, and that kind of caused him to get back in traffic as well, and he spun with Denny Hamlin, got tons of damage there. It was terrible for Ryan Newman. Daniel Hemrick gets 33rd, Daniel Suarez gets 34th. Those two guys got heavy damage at the end when Ryan Newman didn't know what he was doing. Didn't know whether he'd do a stop on the front straightaway for missing the backstretch chicane, or did he have to do a pass-through penalty on pit road? He didn't know. So that kind of caused him to get into Suarez. Suarez, smashed the wall when on the last lap. They called it green, though, so Chase could win on the green flag, and that got into Hemrick and destroyed his car as well. David Ray gets 35th. Garrett Smithley gets 36th. Kyle Busch gets 37th. Kyle Busch just quit. I mean, he just quit just, that was, you know, they were under a red flag for Garrett Smithley having oil on the track. Kyle Busch, oh, it's too hot in here. Pulled the car back to the garage. They were already laps down. Got out. He quit. Typical Kyle Busch move. I'm not happy about it, though. Josh Bilicki gets 38th. Reed Sorensen gets 39th. Eric Jones gets 40th. Eric Jones, coming into this race, was in a must-win situation after being disqualified at Richmond. But then he had a crash and heartburn turn with Bowman and all that. Destroyed his day. He got a DNF and ruined his day pretty early in the race. He was in a must-win anyway, but he ruined his chances of winning, so he does not advance in the playoffs. And was that not the best burnout in NASCAR history? Chase Elliott, right where he crashed in heartburn turn, did the burnout right there, just pressed it, made the smoke there, made a giant black spot, came out of the car, stand on the car while it was rolling, jumped off it, rolled. That was amazing. Crowd went wild. That was amazing by Chase Elliott. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye, guys.